rapidly scaling. That's having a sense of urgency and saying we can do much better for our students. So that's what's going on in attainment. Certainly a lot more to it, but one example of that. The partnerships also that are being formed with our four-year partners, whether that's at the regional campuses, WGU, or quite frankly anybody who wants to partner with us to help stream those students, provide the pathways into the four-year degree programs. It's delightful, I've got to tell you, to be in a room full of parents, community leaders, students, and lay out for them the way in which they can attain a four-year bachelor's degree from a well-respected Indiana institution for less than $25,000. Couple that with the fact that in our region about half the children are on free and reduced lunch. So I know where your minds go, as ours do. 21st Century, O'Bannon, Pell. Suddenly a four-year degree is well within the grasp of a student who might not otherwise have thought that was the case. Manufacturing healthcare networks, a couple of things. Again, understanding, I think culture has been a word that we have used when we've gathered in small and large groups. I keep looking at my friends from Region 9 as often as any other words, but creating a culture and understanding and embracing the fact that this has to be demand-driven, that we've got to have employers in the room. So a few things that we're doing, and again, I'm thinking of the things Claudia talked about, whether it's Dream It, Do It, whether it's Hire, whether it's the AML curriculum and so forth. There's this pathway of helping students understand what the art of the possible is. There's a possibility that oftentimes students don't understand, and quite frankly, their parents and their families don't understand. So here are a few things that the region is embracing and doing. Literally this week, we have coming off the presses 2,500 posters. Our goal, with the help of our K-12 partners, is for one of these posters to be placed in every middle school and high school classroom across southeastern Indiana. They're very colorful, they're very attention-grabbing, and they focus on the top 5 economic sectors in our region. Of course, you've heard it already: manufacturing and healthcare, construction, IT, and education. They also focus on the most high-demand jobs for the next couple of years, the credential requirements, everything from a certificate to a doctorate degree, because we need general practitioners in rural Indiana, and the beginning wages thereof. So our goal is very soon to have those in well over 2,000 classrooms across southeastern Indiana, middle school and high school. This is information. My wife is a high school English teacher. She has said to me before, Chris, I get questions from students. So what do I need to do this, Mrs. Lowry? Or do you know what that pays, Mrs. Lowry? And she has said, I don't know. I don't have those answers. So to make a long story short, it's a nice little tool, we believe, that will help spur the conversation, teachers, students, parents, and others. Beyond that, I think I heard Claudia also talking about rapidly scaling up. One of the things we've been trying is to pilot and model things that we can then spin up and scale up. One of those is summer camps. We will begin this coming summer implementing manufacturing and healthcare camps for rising 8th and 9th graders across the region. We test piloted those in some areas, and to financially do it, we're getting support from the employers and from community groups like Echo 15 and others. There'll be one-week camps, mixture of being on the college campus, Ivy Tech, sometimes the high school, and then out in the place of employment. Internships. I smiled at Claudia when she was talking about Region 9. I know one of the first internship programs that occurred, and with A+ Partners and Hire, was in Batesville, and I'll use that just to illustrate a quick example. I wasn't able to be here for the governor's presentation earlier today, but we pulled the governor into the loop on this last spring. The program that we're piloting and now beginning to replicate across the region is focused on juniors and seniors in high school. They spend part of their day at the high school, they spend part of their day on the college campus, and then they rotate through manufacturing employees. This next year they'll also rotate through healthcare employees or employers. And obviously the point is to get the student through high school with requirements therein, through the community college, leading to certifications and so forth, getting as close as possible to an associate's degree, but then very seriously focusing on the demand side of what the employer is seeking. The first cohort of these juniors and seniors graduated this past May in Batesville. Let me just get to the punchline on this one. This was this was probably the best day I've had in the last year. I had talked with the governor back during the winter, and he was asking about this program. He knew some about it, didn't fully know about it, and kind of invited himself down to Batesville to see what was going on. Unfortunately, he chose a day during spring break. But nevertheless, we were able to garner 7 of those kids who had been involved in the program and say, how would you like to meet the governor? And so anyway, our friend Jody Flederman, Batesville Tool and Die, hosted. The governor came. And the big decision point for those of us, we adults who were involved in this, was that we all held hands and we said, you know what, this is not about us, it's about the kids, and, well, we're not going to say anything. We introduced the governor, said welcome, and we turned him over to 7 high school students. Jackie, that was for an hour. My heart was doing this, you know. And so to make the long story short, the governor, in a small group just like this, went student by student and asked each one of them, what were your plans before you decided to do this program? 6 of the 7 shrugged their shoulders and essentially said, you know, I was hoping to graduate from high school. One of the students said, I had planned to go to Purdue. So what are your plans today? 1 student still going to Purdue. The other 6 have now been hired by the employers who participated in this, and each one of them is continuing toward their associate's degree. Yes, I'm glad about this, at Ivy Tech Community College. I think their lives were changed. And I think the needs of Batesville Tool and Die were changed. And now what it's caused is on the part of my friend Jody Flederman to be very impatient because he's got 19 of those spots now, so we've got to rapidly scale it up, Claudia, right? So, you know, that's another example of what's going on. Beyond that, obviously, and I won't get into all of the details because I need to speed this up. You've got the next session to go to. But we're working with our friends at the Department of Workforce Development, Work One, to say how do we really make this robust for adult students, provide opportunities that they can begin to rise to. You know, our group understands, the folks across the region understand that demand-driven, 1, 3, 5, 10 years, as we look at this picture. We ask a lot, by the way. If there's anything I would suggest to all of you is do not be hesitant, do not be shy about asking your employer partners to be full participants in this. Ask them for money, ask them for time, ask them for their talent, ask them to open up the doors to their places of business. They've got to be in the game. They've got to be committed to it. And I fully believe that when they're asked and they see the value of it, they're in. They're all in. So, you know, as we have a lot of conversations in our region about what we're really doing here. It's the demand side. It's the individual side so that he or she can flourish. But, you know, one of the things that we come back to constantly in talking about, it's really rebuilding a thriving middle class in our state. I think what we're talking about here today with elevating work to learn is part and parcel to that. It is a cornerstone of making that possible and making it successful. I'll leave you with this last little story, and it struck me the other day as I was talking with a writer who works for me at the college, works with me at the college, and we were discussing how to really paint the picture so that someone understands if she or he gets the right education, credentials, certificates, associate's degree, bachelor's, etc., you know, what that can lead to. And how that fits into high demand jobs in, you know, key economic sectors in our state. And I give him a lot of credit. He's a good writer, and he'd gotten a lot of the facts just laid out really well. But the more we talked about it, the more we both agreed we had to paint the picture. And so that when 200 or 300 of us are in this room, and the next time we speak to a Rotary group or a Kiwanis group or the local chamber, we can lay this out so somebody can grasp it. And here's what we came back to. Chris is this fellow's name. He said, so Chris, you know, let's use this person as an example. You know, one individual and what her or his rise might be with a bit of educational attainment. He said, you know, that person today is working a minimum wage job at $7.25 an hour. I said, yeah, you're right. So where are they going from there? $7.25 an hour. You know, very likely they're also limited to 28 hours because of ACA rules and such. And so, you know, just put the math together there. And I said, go along with me here. let's draw this out as a two-person household income, because I think there's a picture here we can paint. So let's picture a two-person household income. Both people are working about 28 hours a week, $7.25 an hour. They earn roughly $22,000 a year. That household is in the bottom quartile of income in the state of Indiana. It comes with it a whole host of challenges that we all know about, right? Now, go to this though, the art of the possible and a bit of hope for people looking at the possibility of being employed in a high demand job in a thriving sector in our state. Each individual decides, you know, I'm not sure about this this whole educational thing all the way to a 4-year degree, but what if I go find a program that requires a certification in one of those fields? And one of them says, you know what, I think I'll go get a certification that allows me to be a machinist. And the other one says, I'll do something in a similar space. Well, current hourly wage for a machinist with a technical certificate in the state of Indiana is $19 an hour. You can do the math, that's roughly $40,000. The other individual decides that's what I'm going to do too, and in a year or so has a certification, and they find themselves in a job that pays $15, $18, $22 an hour. Both individuals are earning about $40,000 a year now. $80,000 for the household. They've gone from the bottom quartile of income earners in the state of Indiana to the top 1/3. They've achieved middle class. And in it, they've benefited. The employers benefited. Our communities have benefited. Now, I am not naive. Will that income make the difference solely in their lives? Absolutely not. There are a host of other things we all know that are critical to the human condition. But it's a step in the right direction, and we all know that. So it's a pleasure to be here. Jackie, thank you for the introduction. Thank you also to Commissioner Braun for asking me to be here. You know, the work that all of you are doing is so critically important. We have to be urgent about it. We have to have a bias to action. You know, my suggestion would be that, you know, you leave here on Tuesday afternoon, figure out what it is you can do on Wednesday morning. Seriously, what can you do on Wednesday morning? Who are you going to call? Which employer are you going to invite to the table who hasn't made it yet? And what are you going to ask her to do? You know, I really do believe what we're doing is, in this work that you all are doing, that we're doing together, it is helping to change lives. It's helping to change communities. It's helping to change our state and make certain that we as a state are on a trajectory toward rebuilding a solid middle class in our state. So thank you for what you're doing. Thanks for being here. I know it's difficult to take a day out of your busy schedules, but the work you're doing is so important and so good. So thank you. Hope you have a great afternoon.
All right, I promised you a break. This is that moment. If you have your lunchbox and you would not like to keep it any longer, as you step outside of the doors, you'll see trash cans. So you can take that with you. We'll take about 10 minutes and then reconvene. Thank you. Okay, if we can ask you to please take your seats. Presenters who are up next, you may come up, take a seat. Brad's leading the way. We have followers.
It'll make your job easier. If you just want to introduce me very briefly, I'll introduce Brad and Brooklyn.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah.
Great. I see the networking happening. It's a wonderful thing. I hate to break it up, but we do have to get you back in your seats. Got some fantastic folks. Come on up. Yep. Come on up, Chuck. Come on up. Oh, wait a minute. So we're going to do...
I'll sit down front.
So we have... Are these the three? Of course. All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So we are going to get started with our next presentation. I'm going to introduce first person, then he's going to provide introductions after that. Just want to encourage you all, if you're able to just hang out here with us to the end. We have a couple things we want to make sure we share with you before we conclude today. But again, we also have good presenters coming up. So next, Roger Feldhaus from Region 4 is going to introduce our other two guest speakers and take it from here. Thank you.
Hi, we're going to form a little bit of a tag team here and sit at the table. I hope you can see us, but if not, you can hear us. I want to introduce Brad Rohrer, who is the Senior HR Manager at Subaru of Indiana, Subaru of Indiana Automotive in Lafayette. And he is one of several employer partners in a sector partnership strategy that involves the transportation equipment sector of the economy, which is doing well in Region 4 and looks to grow even more so in the future. As you know probably already, SIA will be building a new vehicle there beginning roughly a year from now, the Impreza. And then just yesterday it was publicly announced that there is a new 7-passenger crossover vehicle being developed that will be manufactured also at the SIA plant in Lafayette in a couple of years. At least we hope it's not any sooner than that. Brad has also recently been appointed or elected or I don't know, cajoled to be the chair of the Region 4 Works Council. And then Brooklyn Burton, who works with me for the Region 4 Workforce Board, is the Ready to Work Grant Project Manager. You'll be hearing more about the Ready to Work Grant in a minute. We call that Project RAMP, Reemployment in Advanced Manufacturing Positions, which, and the reason it's a topic of discussion here, is it has a heavy involvement of internships. As Brooklyn will point out, this is a program really that because of the source of funding, which is US DOL funding, is directed toward long-term unemployed adults. But the concept, the model itself is adaptable and replicable for all ages in other circumstances as well. I just want to say one thing about Brooklyn. One thing that, although I worked with her now for maybe 3 years or so, and first 2 years of those are at other positions, she comes from a manufacturing family. Her mom and dad and brothers and husband all work in